Hey guys, April 30th, 2021. The first round of the NFL draft is officially over with. And it's funny because the next day with drafts, what people end up doing is everybody's quick to be an expert and quick to kind of look at it and say, oh, hey, like, I can't believe they did this. I can't believe they did that. Are you really that shocked? At this point, we have, decades. And at least for me, like, I go back to, I want to say the early 2000s, and I look at drafts that had happened in the NFL, teams that traded up, teams that traded down, teams that took quarterbacks first overall, first round picks that were quarterbacks that maybe shouldn't have been a first round picks. We've seen running backs that have gone as high as third overall, now tailing towards the end of the first round, if any even going in the first round. There's just so much that's changed, but the one thing really that's remained the same is a crapshoot when drafting a quarterback. Now, not since Andrew Luck have we really seen sure thing in a first overall pick, since before that probably Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning probably the second best quarterback of all time. At one point, him and Tom Brady had that debate as to who the better one was when they were both in their career. Tom Brady's obviously past that. That being said, Tom Brady, a seventh round draft pick, which is proof that nobody really knows anything, right? We know the story with Drew Bledsoe that he took over late in that season, ended up winning the Super Bowl. Let's get back to the draft. So one thing I've noticed since the days of Matt Leinart, even, which was probably, if I had to guess, maybe like 10 or 12 years ago, a lot of quarterbacks are kind of destined to go early or predicted to go early in the first round, even first overall, like Leinart probably was before that. He went back to college, had Reggie Bush as his running back, wanted to go and win a national championship, and they ended up losing to Vince Young. So what happened there, and to be honest, if I can compare that to basketball, what ends up happening is you give scouts another year to kind of nitpick at your game. And nobody's perfect, and they will always find something. Matt Leinart ended up going, I believe, 12th or something overall that year, and really never had that good of a career. So the thing here with Trevor Lawrence is everybody knew that when he arrived at Clemson as a freshman, that he was going to be the first overall pick in whatever draft he ended up going in. He couldn't go in the draft until this year. So last year he would have been the first pick ahead of Joe Burrow. This year there was rumblings at one point during the season that maybe he's not that guy. Maybe he's the second pick. Maybe Josh Fields is there. And I don't like Ohio State. I respect what they've done. Their quarterbacks have never been great in the NFL as far as I've been following football the last 20 or so years. There's been a lot of busts in the first round, a lot of later round picks that just never made it, not even backups. But I think that something's different with Fields in this case. That I want to get to a little bit later. I need to kind of make this statement that Trevor Lawrence, I don't think that really there's anything to worry about. Have there been massive busts in the NFL? For sure. I just think this guy has too much talent. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think that Jacksonville's really lucky to get him. As a Titans fan, I'm kind of worried. I'll get to Titans stuff possibly a little bit later as well. The draft really started at number 2. And if you're a Jets fan, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. But second of all, you draft Sam Darnold just a few years ago. And if you remember going to that 2018 draft, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen even, Josh Rosen going into the beginning of that draft as well. These are all guys that were kind of at the college season, were toss-ups. Who's going to go first? These guys are all really good. You look, what's it been? 2.5 years since that draft, 3 years since that draft. Baker Mayfield, he's shown some flashes. He's also not really shown too much. Made it to the playoffs, won a game. The Browns, finally turned their season and the franchise around this season. That being said, he's still really good. I wouldn't say he's a perennial Pro Bowler by any means. Sam Darnold. So the Jets had him. The Jets have been a train wreck ever since, I guess, Sanchez left, and Sanchez was never that good to begin with. They had great defense with Rex Ryan, and that's really what carried them, that in a running game. Point is, they haven't had an offensive line. They haven't had a wide receiver since Burris, maybe Santana. I don't know how far we're going back, but they haven't really had any weapons. Mix that in with a defense that was kind of overrated, better than average for sure, but when you're always going from behind, you're always trying to throw the ball and you're behind. You don't have wide receivers that can get any separation. You don't have a running back or a running game to establish any kind of play action, nothing. I don't know really how successful you could be. Like, sure, you could put Tom Brady in there, and of course the guy's going to have some type of success. But as a young quarterback, I think that Darnold is solid, and I just don't know. You trade him away to Carolina, you replace him with Zach Wilson, who I'm going to get to in a minute, and really, was it worth trading away Darnold to get picks? And you're already messed up by winning a few games when you could have got Lawrence. Nobody's really going to debate that if you're going to get the first overall pick. You win some games you shouldn't have. The coaching situation there, we know, has been just a train wreck. And now you're kind of starting from scratch for what seems like the 10th season, or exaggerating, but just how many times can you we're gonna hit the reset button. We're gonna hit the reset button. How many pieces does this team really have moving forward on the offensive side of the ball? Not many. Getting to Zach Wilson. I've talked about this 1,000 times with a few of my friends. Pro days. So the whole point of pro days when you're getting drafted in the NFL is you put on a show. That's really what it is. You're a magician. You get a quarterback. You get these wide receivers. Nobody's really there. It's a controlled environment. You're throwing like 60-yard bombs down the field. You're looking incredible. Who isn't making those throws on their pro day? That's really what I need to know. Zach Wilson, incredible arm. I'm not going to deny it. He looks really good throwing the football. What's that going to translate to? Who hasn't had a good pro day that's been a first-round pick? All these questions I kind of need answers to. And when I see Zach Wilson, Jets fans, of course, getting all excited. What other, what choice do they have to not be excited? He looked incredible throwing the football. And I don't know, who's he throwing the football to? This kind of reminds me, I get to Trey Lance in a second, maybe I should get to him now. So, San Fran went through, that huge trade. You trade first-round picks, 2 first-round picks, to get a guy who is very raw. He had a really good season, massive kid. He's at North Dakota State. Carson Wentz went there, cool. And he hasn't been the same since. But you're looking at BYU, you're looking at North Dakota State, and not every Alabama quarterback or Miami back in the day, all these big time programs put out the best quarterbacks. I'll get to that in a second as well. But I just don't understand how you can, mortgage away your future to get a guy that's such a question mark. In both Wilson, more so in Lance, but you look at these guys, and like I said, Trevor Wilson was a lock to begin with at first. Second pick, I don't know what Justin Fields did to slip this much. This gets back to the whole thing of teams having and scouts having way too much time to kind of look at tape and be like, I don't know. He could have thrown that ball better. He could have taken that hit. His footwork looks a little bit sketchy. Like, if you want to watch Tom Brady once again at the beginning of his career throw a football and his footwork, running around from a pass rush, like, none of this stuff was incredible for anybody coming into the league. That's why such few quarterbacks come into the league from day one have success. Now, with all of these guys, like I said, I made the comparison before of quarterbacks throwing in pro day or quarterbacks going from low-level schools to high, comparing FCS 1 to throwing in the SEC. If you want to look at NBA, for example, right, and whether you be at LA Fitness or any college, there's a lot of guys that can shoot like Steph Curry in practice. Let me rephrase that. There's a lot of guys that can shoot like Steph Curry in practice, or where nobody's guarding them. Now, put a guy that's Kawhi Leonard, for example, Mikal Bridges, all these elite defenders, 6'8", 6'9", 6'6", 7'2" wingspans. You're not really going against Joe Schmoes that are guarding you at LA Fitness anymore or low-level colleges. Not only do you have to make these shots, you're running for your life and trying to evade guys that are guarding you and then also hit a moving target in football. In basketball, it's the same thing. You're not going to be wide open all the time. You're going to have to hit the guy with a few crossovers, run off a screen, hit a step back, fade away. Nobody's going to give you these wide open shots, and that's the same thing in football. If you're going to give Zach Wilson or any of these quarterbacks the best offensive line of all time and the best wide receivers of all time, give them a Pro Bowl lineup, you're damn right they're going to succeed. But when you're going to teams like the Jets, San Fran has a better lineup, but you're going to teams like that and wide receivers that can't get any separation, it's not the same as going to BYU playing against less competition and throwing up 54 every night and covering the spread when the spread's 35 points. It's just not going to happen. So when you see these guys throwing on pro days, when you see them against the competition they're going against, and this works the other way for schools like Alabama as well. That's why this is so tough drafting and kind of scouting a quarterback, is how can we put together some type of, platform or anything that you can kind of project how good these guys are going to be? Because if they're in lower level colleges, like some of these guys, BYU and North Dakota State, you're saying, didn't really play the best competition, but I really like what I see when they throw the ball. Then you go with someone like Mac Jones at Alabama, and you're saying, this guy had all the talent in the world at the collegiate level. His offensive line's all going to be in the NFL. His 2 wide receivers already first-round picks. What kind of, he throws, he's very accurate. Okay, cool. But he's also throwing to 2 guys that are probably going to be Pro Bowlers in their, if not first season, second season, and both those wide receivers. So it is tough to kind of forecast where these guys are going to go. And I just, even with, Trey Lance, I saw this stat, and I had to write it down and I'll read it. 318 passes in his career in college football. That's the fewest passes by a first-round pick in 40 years. 40 years. 25 dropbacks when playing from behind. That's another thing, like I said with Darnold. If you have, an incredible running back, you have a great defense, you're always kind of ahead. This goes back to, I guess, like New England and those Pittsburgh teams, early Pittsburgh teams with like Roethlisberger, when you had, Bettis and all kinds of guys, a young Le'Veon Bell running the ball, and incredible defenses. There's not much stress. You have, 3, 4, 5 seconds in the pocket to kind of get a read, throw the ball. And you're not going to have that. And a lot of guys, even Sam Darnold, like I said, would anybody be surprised if Sam Darnold, in this season, with a little bit better talent, not much, but, better talent than he had with the Jets succeed? No. And what does this do for a franchise like the Jets? That, if this happens for another year, you draft a quarterback just 3 years after you drafted one in the first round pick in the top 10, you let him go away, so you want to reshuffle the deck with Zach Wilson. Like I said, he might be an incredible quarterback. But is it really worth taking that risk to trade, somewhat of a known commodity in Darnold and get less than market value for him to take a guy second overall and really do that same crapshoot? I don't think so. Moving on, Trey Lance, and when I talked earlier about Leinart, and that was just the first guy I could think of. A lot of quarterbacks, going into the draft, let's say the week 1 of college football, they're projected first round, top 5 picks, and then, there's only one way to go when you're that high, you're going to slide. Trey Lance wasn't a first round pick at all in any mock drafts at the beginning of the season. And to be honest, when I was looking back a month ago, he was between like 15 to like 25. Now all of a sudden he's going with 3rd overall pick, and I'm really kind of getting worried. And 49ers fans, I think, kind of have to feel the same thing, because what has he shown you to kind of warrant this 3rd overall picking? When you have guys like Mac Jones, who at least at Alabama are winning consistently, or Josh Fields, who, beat Clemson, the team that was the national champions before, and, the best quarterback in the class. He took that hit, and then you saw in that Ohio State game, again, that Clemson game, and he got up and he kept going, and you're just kind of saying, this is the kind of guy I want to lead my team, an actual leader. So Tua was another comparison I had when I was kind of looking at Mac Jones. Tua was, a better thrower, cleaner delivery. Mac Jones was not even a first-round pick once again at the beginning of the season. Tua was a lock. Jalen Hurts, when he was at Alabama, that championship game, didn't have the best game. Tua came in, threw a ball, and everybody's like, oh, it's a second coming. This guy's incredible. He had a great next season for sure. Once again, when you're throwing with guys like Jerry Jeudy and whoever else they had, can't remember off the top of my head, NFL wide receivers, offensive linemen, tackles that are all 6'8", like 320, you're going to have all day to make these passes with elite wideouts that are going to beat your corner 10 out of 10 times every play. I don't want to say I can make all those passes, but if you're, all those guys who go to those schools are, top 10 recruits, at least at their position, you're going to have all the success in the world. And anybody that knows me, I kind of gave a warning. Hey, I don't think that Tua is going to be that good. He ended up going in the top 10 or maybe a little bit just after. The only reason he didn't go top 3, top 5 was because he had that terrible hip injury. And he had immediate success, I guess, when, his first game, I won't forget, I was watching with my buddies, and Miami's taking on the Rams, and everybody's like, oh, Aaron Donald's going to eat this guy up. Miami had one of the best defenses in the year last year. And I know early in the season, whenever that game was, if I had to guess, I'd say like week 6 or something. People were kind of saying, oh, 50-50 game, Tua looks really good, first round pick, but you're throwing into the fire against that defense. Won that game. Seemed to have won every other game the next, month or so. And then really hit a rookie wall, let's call it, right? And all of a sudden, Fitzpatrick comes in, there's quarterback controversy. And part of what I'm getting at is, a guy there like Tua, who's throwing with elite protection, elite wide receivers, and incredible running backs, because Alabama's put out nothing but incredible running backs. If you're failing in that kind of college system, you can't fail in that kind of college system, because you're too good to even get there with that incredible talent around you, that it's just not going to happen. Moving on to Josh Fields. Like I said earlier, never been the biggest Ohio State guy, especially when they beat Miami in the early mid-2000s, Willis McGahee. But Josh Fields, I just saw something different that I didn't see from, Braxton Miller or, any other guy that I've seen from Ohio State before, who's, been the entire package, can run the ball, throw the ball. The thing I like about Fields is he can run, but he chooses not to unless he has to. And we've seen guys like RG3, who went second overall, won Rookie of the Year that season. It doesn't matter what kind of body you have. Even Cam Newton, who I won't spend too much time on, didn't run a lot after, even though he can throw a football 10 yards. Because you just, no matter how big you are, even if you're built like a linebacker like that, your body just can't take that week in and week out. You'll just be banged up. But what I've seen from Fields is a strong arm, tough passer, can run. He can throw on the run. He can throw in the pocket. Won at Ohio State. A powerhouse team, no doubt. But really, what else do you want? Like I said, these are crapshoots you're doing with quarterback anyways. I'd rather take a guy who is, elite, an elite arm, going to a big program like Ohio State, has won, can throw the play action pass, has a good pump fake, can throw the ball deep, is pretty accurate, as opposed to taking a risk. And I know guys love taking the risk in the draft in any sport. Oh, we want to hit the home run. These picks don't work out very often. I hate to say it. If I were to pull up the draft of every draft from, even mid-2000s to today, Russillo did it, and I listened to his podcast a while ago. I think it's 50%. Divorce rates are higher, right? So that being said, why not take a commodity like Josh Fields, who has at least one, has success, can throw the football, went to a program, and all those things, like I said, instead of looking at the shiny car that's pulling up because he has a lot of highlights against pylons in a lower tier conference. Okay, I guess that rant's done. Other than that, in terms of the quarterback, Mac Jones, another guy I wanted to talk about. New England took him. They traded up to get him mid first round. I don't know. Like, there's already these comparisons that, hey, it's the next Tom Brady. Let's pump the brakes, because nobody saw any of that coming. And it was not lightning in a bottle, but winning the lottery that, the best coach of all time ended up going with a 7th-round pick out of Michigan, who was, obviously a 7th-round pick for a reason. It has nothing to do with the body of the picture that you saw of his body when he got drafted. He was just obviously a 7th-round pick by grade and exceeded all expectations. Now all of a sudden, Mac Jones looks like him. And no doubt the guy is talented. Like, the guy was going to be, at least at the beginning of the season, a 2nd or 3rd round pick, skyrockets up. All of a sudden, they're saying 1st round pick again. You're seeing a bit of a pattern here. Like, I've talked about all these guys that are coming out of nowhere. And even in the NBA, the guy that I can think of off the top of my head was Dion Waiters, who was a late 1st round pick, goes to Syracuse, Syracuse gets into the tournament, the Final Four, whatever it was that season, has a great showing. They ended up taking him 3rd overall, Cleveland. The guy became a glorified 6th man, right? You want to see some kind of body of work if you're going to invest a top 3, top 5 pick in any sport with these guys, instead of just saying, oh, he's huge, he's fast, he can throw a football. Great. We've seen that before, and we've seen failure all over again. And I get it with quarterbacks. If you have a good one, which, to be honest, there's maybe 8 of them in the league, those franchises are set for 10 to 15 years. But would you rather roll the dice every year with a quarterback, or every 3 years like these terrible teams are doing? Or would you rather take, and credit to the Falcons there for taking Kyle Pitts, because I think he's going to be absolutely incredible, instead of, Matt Ryan's kind of getting old. Maybe we should take Mac Jones here. And who knows, maybe Mac Jones is going to be a Hall of Famer. I have no idea. Point is, if you're going to go with the quarterback, nothing's certain. Same as, I guess, a lot of these picks, but you have a lot better track record of taking a wideout, let's say in the top 10, a tight end, a linebacker, a pass rusher, a tackle. These positions are a lot safer than, all of a sudden this flurry of, oh, hey, we got to take a quarterback. We got to take a quarterback because we haven't done one in a long time. Ask me, I'm a Titans fan. Was Jake Locker any good? No. Marcus Mariota? No. Never liked either of them when they got drafted. But the teams, I don't know what they see in any of these guys. I get it. Like, the draft's going to come and you're not going to say, oh, he's not Drew Brees with that accuracy. he's not Josh Allen with a cannon. Great. None of those guys have the entire package anyway. You know who did? Jamarcus Russell. He lasted a year. So I don't want to hear any of that anymore. That being said, that's going to do it for today. I was going to do a review of the first round picks, getting into it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get together with Igor on the weekend. We're going to go through at least the first 2 rounds and break down team needs. Did they make the right picks? Did they not? And then another thing too I want to do is kind of foreshadow a guy that I really like going into the second round today. And that's Trask, the quarterback out of Kyle Trask, quarterback out of Florida. I really like what he did there. I know he had weapons for sure with Pitts and then the other wideout that ended up going in the first round to Florida. But there's just something that I saw. I watched a few games this year, and I don't know what it was, to be honest. Just a feeling that I'm getting from him. I think he's going to be a really solid quarterback. I don't know how good he's going to be, but I guarantee you that in this first round of all these quarterbacks, at least one, if not half these guys, will be on a different team in 5 years. That being said, enjoy the second round of the NFL draft tonight. I'm Joe Ferrari for On the Block. Have a good night.